This is Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Pulse of Africa News live from Addis Ababa, the diplomatic hub of Africa. We bring you the top stories from across the continent. I am Samia Mohammed. Stay tuned. The first news item is related to the African Business Forum. Ethiopian President Taye Asselassie said that Africa's demographic surge demands urgent and coordinated action. Addressing the African Business Forum 2026, the president underscored that through focused policy reforms and sustained investment in skills development, the nation is successfully transforming its demographic potential into a catalyst for shared prosperity. Speaking under the theme Financing Africa's Future, Jobs and Innovation for Sustainable Transformation, Taye reaffirmed Ethiopia's resolve to align national reforms with the aspiration of the African Union's Agenda 2063. He noted that employment generation remains the cornerstone of inclusive growth.
Ethiopia has undertaken a far-reaching policy measures to create employment for our youth. In the first half of our 10 years development roadmap, we have created employment for 14.1 million young people. Nearly 84% of these jobs were generated through youth-led entrepreneurships. If we take, for example, the Addis Ababa Corridor and Riverside Development Project, employed over 30,000 young people over the last 6 months. Over the last 2 years, it could be over 100,000 elsewhere in different cities in our regions.
Highlighting Ethiopia's experience, the president cited the expansion of industrial parks and integrated manufacturing ecosystem, which have generated millions of permanent jobs, particularly for women. The president also pointed to agro-industrial parks that bridge the gap between smallholder farmers and domestic and export markets, thereby bolstering productivity and household incomes. Furthermore, Taye referenced Ethiopia's recently enacted startup proclamation designed to fortify the innovation ecosystem and position the country as a competitive global exporter. He noted that nationwide digital skills programs are currently equipping millions of young Ethiopians to thrive within the global digital economy.
Ethiopia recently issued the Startup Proclamation. Under Digital Ethiopia 2030, we adopted a national accelerator program providing seed funding, international exposure, and mentorship, such as the initiative that we have training 5 million coders. We need to harmonize national startup laws and macro, small and medium enterprise policies with the African Continental Free Trade Area. I call for the creation of Pan-African Innovation Corridor, where a startup or a macro, small and medium scale enterprise certified in Addis can access markets in Accra, Cairo, Lagos, or anywhere in our respective capitals without undergoing cumbersome validation and unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles.
Regarding the broader African context, the president stressed that the continent's demographic surge demands urgent, coordinated action. He cautioned that youth unemployment and demographic disparities could undermine long-term stability if not addressed through industrial expansion and innovation-driven strategies. Africa's growing youth population must be equipped with relevant skills and opportunities so it becomes a driver of prosperity rather than a challenge, Taye remarked. Strategic investment in manufacturing, agro-industry and digital transformation, he added, is critical to turning population growth into productive asset. He emphasized that Africa's transformation depends on a collective ability to mobilize capital, empower entrepreneurs, and act in unity. The United Kingdom's ambassador to Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union, Darren Welch, has commended Ethiopia's efforts in promoting peace and security across the Horn of Africa. Ambassador Darren Welch said that he understood Ethiopia's desire to secure sea access in order to support its rapid economic growth and burgeoning population. Speaking in an inclusive interview with Pulse of Africa, Ambassador Welch, he emphasized that relations between the UK and Ethiopia are growing stronger. Just weeks earlier, the UK Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, Yvette Cooper, made her first official visit to Africa, choosing Ethiopia as her destination. During her visit, she held discussions with the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and the two sides signed several agreements aimed at deepening cooperation. According to Ambassador Welch, these developments reflect the strengthening of bilateral ties. The ambassador highlighted Ethiopia's vast investment potential and expressed the UK's interest in expanding trade and investment opportunities.
The government, as I say, has embarked upon a very impressive set of macroeconomic reforms which have put the economy on a much more solid footing and provided a stronger investment climate. And we see that investors are more interested in the country as a result of that. The population is growing, the economy is growing, so this is a very, has the potential at least to be a very attractive investment environment. Are we taking full advantage of it? Probably not enough yet. And I'm very pleased to say that the United Kingdom's trade envoy is visiting Ethiopia next week, and we'll be having meetings about how we can do more.
He praised Ethiopia's significant contribution to regional peace and security, citing its role in Somalia as a clear demonstration of its steadfast commitment to stability in the Horn of Africa.
And I want to pay tribute to the Ethiopian contribution to the AU's mission in Somalia. We know that thousands of Ethiopians have served there. Too many of them have lost their lives, and it's cost the government both in lives and in money. So we really recognise that and pay tribute to that. It's a great example of how this country can be a force for peace and stability in its region.
Ambassador Welch further noted that the Horn of Africa holds immense potential for development, stressing that peace is a prerequisite for harnessing this opportunity. With its large population and growing economy, Ethiopia is well positioned to play a vital role in the region's progress.
As you say, it's a complex region, and its potential is enormous. It's so strategically placed, but there's too much conflict and too much potential conflict. And the United Kingdom wants to see this region at peace with itself and flourishing. As you say, Ethiopia has an outsized, a very important role to play on those issues.
Ethiopia, with the largest population and the strongest economy in the Horn of Africa, remains the world's largest landlocked nation. Recognizing the strategic importance of the sea access for its continued growth, both the government and the Ethiopian people are actively working to secure sea access that will support the country's expanding population and fast-paced economic development. On Ethiopia's quest for sea access, Ambassador Welch reiterated his awareness of the issue and encouraged a peaceful resolution.
I come from a country which has 51 major ports and more than 120 other ports, so I approach this issue with some humility. And the United Kingdom, of course, is a major seafaring, trading nation with deep roots in its seafaring and naval traditions. So we understand the desire to be connected to the world for trade. I can understand why a country of Ethiopia's size and growing economy would want to diversify its access to commercial ports. But we would always argue that any differences, any tensions are negotiated peacefully.
The United Kingdom's ambassador to Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union, Darren Welch, also outlined the UK's evolving policy toward Africa, explaining that Britain seeks to move beyond the traditional donor-recipient framework and instead foster partnership based on investment and trade. Jeffrey Sachs, professor at Columbia University and president of the UN Sustainable Development Solution Network, urged African nations to pursue bold continental unification to avoid fragmentation and exploitation in a multipolar world. The Institute of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia hosted Professor Jeffrey Sachs for a high-level lecture on the theme of realizing African development potential in a multipolar world. In an address on Africa's future, renowned economist Professor Jeffrey Sachs urged the continent to emulate the unified economic models, emphasizing that a fragmented approach among its 55 member states would lead to exploitation by global powers. He painted a vision of Africa as the potential center of the world economy by the end of the century, but only through bold continental scale strategies and massive investments.
Unified, integrated structure, continental scale economy with a continental scale policy and plan. That's what it will take. If you have to do this 55 times, it won't work. So Africa, first and foremost, needs to think at a continental scale.
Jeffrey Sachs expressed optimism about Africa's ongoing economic integration efforts, particularly praising the African Continental Free Trade Area as a genuine and increasingly viable initiative, though he noted its implementation is progressing too slowly. He called for accelerated operationalization of the AfCFTA and endorsed the long-term goal of establishing a single African Union currency, describing it both feasible and essential for building a true continental economy within the next 10 to 20 years. Sachs outlined a development blueprint centered on 3 core investment pillars: education, infrastructure, and sustained capital flows. He emphasized Africa's substantial demographic dividend driven by a median population age of 19 and roughly half the continent's residents currently of school age. Realizing this potential, he argued, requires ensuring that every child completes at least upper secondary education with meaningful learning outcomes. On infrastructure, he advocated for a comprehensive continent-wide strategy covering power generation, transportation networks, digital connectivity, housing, water, and sanitation system. Sachs highlighted Africa's vast renewable energy potential, pointing out that solar installation across a relatively small portion of the Saharan desert could generate enough electricity to meet global demand.
The second major investment is physical infrastructure. And of course, that entails the power sector, the transport sector, the digital sector, social housing, water and sanitation. The key infrastructure. There needs to be an Africa-wide strategy that reaches down to every part of the continent. The power sector should tap your wind, solar, hydro, geothermal.
If these steps are followed, Jeffrey Sachs predicts that Africa's share of the global economy could rise from about 5% today to around 1/3 by the year 2000, making it the center of the world economy.
If you do this and you project forward, Africa becomes, by the end of this century at least, roughly 1/3 of the world economy. That's good. Today, it's 5% of the world economy. It can be around 1/3 of the world economy by the end of this century. And you look at a map, that's the center of the world. And that's a good thing. And that's what we should aim for. And that will mean for Africa a unified strategy, investment, 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 and strategic partnerships with all who want to be strategic partners with Africa.
you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Ethiopian Airlines' 80-year journey as a cornerstone of African integration, trade and connectivity. Speaking to Pulse of Africa, Group CEO Mesfin Asaf said, Ethiopian Airlines has been more than a carrier. It has been a bridge linking African nations, people and economies. Our mission has always been to serve Africa first while connecting the continent to the world, Dasso said. Since its founding shortly before the creation of the Organization of African Unity, Ethiopian Airlines has played a historic role in enabling African unity and progress. The airline has facilitated trade, diplomacy and regional collaboration, becoming a trusted partner of the African Union and other continental institutions.
Ethiopian Airlines has always been a partner of African Union, and we have been working together. In fact, this year we are going to celebrate our 18th year anniversary since the airline was established, and we will have a lot of celebration for that, and we will honor the support and the partnership of Ethiopian Airlines with our partners, including African Union.
Celebrating its 80th anniversary this year, the airline continues to set a standard for African excellence, honoring the partnership and communities that have supported its journey. Recent financial results further underscore its resilience. Ethiopian Airlines generated $4.4 billion in revenue in the first half of the fiscal year, marking a 14% increase compared to the same period last year.
Ethiopian Airlines has performed very well during the first 6 months of the current fiscal year. We grew consistent with our plan. In terms of revenue, we generated $4.4 billion during the first 6 months, and that is 14% growth compared to last year, same period last year, and it is at the same level per our plan. And we will continue with this growth plan during the second half of the year. So it is not a plan of growth for 1 year, but we are growing in line with our Vision 2035.
They also emphasized that this long-term vision aligns with the airline's ongoing strategy to advance Africa's connectivity, economic integration and global competitiveness. Ethiopian Airlines' Pan-African strategy is further strengthened through the key regional partnership. Its primary strategic partner in West Africa, Sky Airlines, based in Lomé, Togo, serves as a hub for connecting the region. Other important collaborations include Malawi Airlines, Zambia Airways and Air Congo, forming a multi-hub network that ensures seamless connectivity across the continent. This integrated strategy allows Ethiopian Airlines to reach far beyond its Addis Ababa hub, bringing Africa closer together. Over 8 decades, Ethiopian Airlines has grown into Africa's largest and most modern carrier, modernizing its fleet, training thousands of aviation professionals, and investing in infrastructure across the continent. Speaking on Africa's development priorities, Gagolom, head of Statistics Division at the African Union Institute for Statistics, said Ethiopia offers a model for other nations, describing the country as a strong Pan-African hub that unites the continent and makes all Africans feel at home. He highlighted Ethiopia's large-scale infrastructure drive, particularly the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, as an example of the bold, transformative projects Africa should pursue rather than small initiatives. Such mega projects, he said, demonstrate the scale of ambition needed to accelerate growth and integration across the continent. Gagolom noted that Ethiopia is not keeping the benefits to itself, as electricity from the dam is already supplying neighboring countries, strengthening regional cooperation and shared prosperity. He added that visionary leadership and collective commitment are key to advancing similar projects across Africa, urging nations to embrace large, continent-wide solutions for sustainable development.
The Ethiopia case is a school-made case that people need to learn from these countries. First, Ethiopia is a Pan-African country, which brings all the Africans together. When we are here, we feel in our continent, we feel in our country. There is no difference. Ethiopia is the capital of Africa. And then the mega project that currently bring by Ethiopia, that one we wanted to see in the continent. Most of the mega project in the continent in Africa, like the dam, for example. We don't need to do small things. We need to go to big things. And now, by having this mega project for the continent, now Ethiopia is not keeping it for himself. This electricity now has access to Djibouti, to Sudan, to Kenya, to others. Everyone that wanted, he will access. He benefit from where? He benefit from the good willing of the Ethiopian people. And this because there is a one person of taking leadership. We need to move with it. And this leadership now is paying, and Africa is applauding. We are all applauding these things behind.
Ethiopia is also driving major investment across energy, industry, transport and manufacturing to promote national growth and regional integration. The Addis Ababa-Djibouti Railway enhances trade and logistics access to ports, while the planned Bishoftu International Airport is set to become one of Africa's largest aviation hubs. Other flagship projects include a nuclear power plant for peaceful energy generation, expanded oil and gas infrastructure, and the Gode fertilizer plant, a $2.5 billion facility aimed at boosting agricultural self-sufficiency and heavy industry. Together with new industrial parks, roads and renewable energy projects, these initiatives underscore Ethiopia's commitment to bold, transformative mega projects that will drive long-term developments across the continent. President John Dramani Mahama has called for urgent and coordinated African action in response to what he described as profound shifts in the global order. Speaking at the Accra Reset Addis Reckoning event, he warned that fractured supply chains, cautious finance, and rapidly advancing technology are reshaping international power dynamics. These are structural changes, he stressed, and Africa must respond with clarity, unity, and execution. The president traced the evolution of the Accra Reset initiative from the Health Sovereignty Summit in Accra to discussions at the United Nations General Assembly and Davos. He noted that the Addis Ababa meeting marks a transition from dialogue to implementation. He described Accra Reset as a practical framework aligning finance, health, trade, skills, and technology into one strategic direction.
Accra Reset is an architecture, a framework through which Africa and its partners align finance, health, trade, skills, and technology into a single direction of travel. Our global digital skills passport will ensure that the qualifications of young Africans are recognized across platforms and across the world. There's a quiet truth we rarely say aloud. For years, Africa's leaders have been asked to choose between ambition and realism.
A key proposal is a global digital skills passport to ensure African qualifications are recognized across borders and platforms, unlocking global opportunities for young people. Rejecting what he called the false choice between ambition and realism, President Mahama declared that Africa's frustrations have turned into determination.
Accra Reset rejects that false choice. Ambition only becomes realistic when institutions align, when partners listen, and execution becomes a shared responsibility. We've reflected enough in our meetings over the years, and it's time to commit. It's time to interlock our sovereign prosperity spheres. It is time to transform. This is the Addis reckoning.
It is time to commit, it's time to align our institutions and partners, it's time to transform, he said. This is the Addis reckoning. That's for the hour. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye.